From the EPAWA headquarters in South Allentown, Pennsylvania, it's time for Weather Weeklies, an informative video of the ins and outs of weather that affect you most in the EPAWA coverage area. The following segment is a weekly video blog, and the opinions of the forecaster do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the staff of Eastern PA Weather Authority LLC as a whole, nor its constituents. Without further ado, here is meteorologist Bobby Martrich with Weather Weeklies.
And good morning, Sunday, November 1st. I love when the calendar turns to November here because that means we're getting that much closer to winter and the busy season here. And we're starting to see some signals that are coming in line with what we've been thinking, and some other signals that are not only reinforcing but showing us we might be a little bit more cold and snowier than we thought. And we'll get to this is for this upcoming winter here. We do have our winter outlook coming out here, coming up on November 13th publicly. For our forum members will be out that Monday prior, but we're really starting to see a lot of things coming together right now. We're going to go through that in this video here. Now we have said it along for a while that the temperatures starting off in winter would be warmer, milder than average, and we were expecting some kind of transition late in the month in January, and then it looks like February would be a pretty rough month, maybe the first part of March as well. Now we're going to change gears a little bit because we're starting to see some more analogs come in, and this looks like it's going to start a little bit sooner. So we won't have to wait as long for winter to kick into gear. It does start off mild, and if you want to include November as part of that, we do think that. Here is short range. This is our latest off of our latest long range outlook here. This was done on Friday, so it included the 31st, which was yesterday. Of course, we were below average yesterday across the coverage area. We're now going above average for the next couple of days, and then well above average by the time we get to the middle of the week. We're actually going to be pushing 70 degrees in many locations again, and people are going to be like, well, what's going on here? This is not November weather, and it's not. Normal weather for the number of temperatures for this time of year are about 10 to 15 degrees lower than what it will be this upcoming week in this November 3rd through 5th time frame. And then we have a cold front come through here. Might have to move this back to near average here. This, of course, was done on Friday. It looks like the latest guidance is starting to bring in a little mini trough here as we head into next weekend. So I might have a couple periods at the beginning of this that are, this is a long period here from the 6th to the 18th. We have above average. I think that whole period average is above average, but it might only end up being slightly above average, more what we're looking at it here. But November as a whole, we do think ends up above average. So if you're going to include November as part of winter, we do have some November snow events usually that start creeping up this month, especially for far northern and northwestern areas as you get closer to Thanksgiving. And November as a whole, as far as precipitation is concerned, we're looking to be near average this month in precipitation. December as a whole, we have listed here as above average. The more I'm looking at this, this might actually turn out to be near to slightly above average temperatures. We're starting to see some indications that you might have a few cold shots in there that could really make this something similar to what October was. Not as far as temperatures verbatim, but what we finished the month of October in most areas anywhere between 0 and +1. Okay, I can see that happening again as far as departures from normal. I can see that happen again here in December. And then precipitation, we're expecting above average in December. Now, you will have some cold shots come in. You will have some cold shots come in here in the month of December. And if you time those just right, we could have some snow events here in December, just because it says above average. And we might even be amending this shortly to say slightly above average as we go forward in future outlooks. Even though this says above average does not mean you're talking about 50s and 60s the entire month. Average in December, temperatures are in the 40s for a lot of areas for highs. So if you're averaging the entire month, taking all 31 days of December, okay, and you average it together, at the end of the day, we're saying that it's going to be slightly above normal for an average temperature, but you're definitely going to have your cold periods in there, and if you time those just right with precipitation, you can get some snow, and we think it's going to be quite active as far as precipitation here. We have above average precipitation listed for the month of December as a whole, so if you time those just right with the cold air, you can get snow to be near or slightly above what is considered to be normal for the month of December. Okay, so that's how far we went in our public chart. We do go beyond that, though, in the forum, and we've been talking about January and how this is going to might start a little bit earlier. I'm going to give you just a little bit of insight to this, and I'm going to break this down to you as far as what we're looking at here. We're going to start off with the short range here, and now here is the GFS Ensemble is showing this very strong warmth here. We're talking about that very well above average time period. That's because you have this huge ridge here. Huge ridge promotes warmth. You have a deep trough in the west. That's cold for out west. So kind of like a the roller coaster here. What comes up must come down, and that's in large part due to a ridge out here in the Aleutians. Okay, if you have a big ridge out here, you just downstream, you have a trough in the west and a ridge in the east. And that's going to give you, any ridge in the east is going to give you warmth. Okay, if you had a low sitting out here in the Aleutians, which this is a low right here, if you had this low sitting out here, it then promotes a ridge out west and a trough in the east. Okay, so it's just kind of like a cyclical game here. All right, so this is what we're looking at for this upcoming work week. We're going to have a very warm, especially middle of the week onward. But I think after we get past that, we're going to have another cool shot come in, very brief for next weekend, then we warm up again. But then we go zonal. This is looking out to the 13th now of November. And you see how everything's kind of like a west-east flow. There's not really any amplification. All your cold air is stuck up here, okay, where it should be. And there's really, the Arctic Oscillation is actually positive, so it keeps all the cold locked up north, and we're just stuck in a fast progressive west-east zonal flow. Well, that's Pacific air coming in. That means we're going to be near to slightly above normal for a good period. Okay, and I think you get around the middle of the month here, you're losing the amplification. So you're not seeing what we saw in the previous graphic here. When we go over to this one here, where you see this big up and down ridge and troughs here, big amplification. Okay, you're now seeing a flat west zonal fast west-east flow here. So this means Pacific air, this means you're going to be near normal or slightly above. Okay, and you see that here, really not, but near normal for this time of year is in the 50s, so you can expect that as we get to the middle of the month. All right, nothing crazy warm, nothing crazy cold. That's what that means. And this is supported by the Madden-Julian Oscillation. Latest projections here have this in phase 2 right now. Well, phase 2 signal is this. This is a phase 2 signal right here. Phase 2 means that you're going to have this warmth here in the east. That's what phase 2 means. If you look at our chart here, phase 2 and phase 3 are both warm areas. Okay, so you're in phase 2 right now. Getting into phase 3. When you get into phase 3, then you're really warm. Here's what the Madden-Julian Oscillation means for the month of November, December, and January. Those months. These temperatures here are above normal. Okay, you get to phase 2, it starts backing off to the further northwest, and you're only slightly above normal, and that's by the time we get to the middle of the month. You see what it starts doing here, and not only does the signal weaken, this is a strong MJO signal, then it starts to weaken out here, but it gets into phase 3, so phase 3 is going to be this warm, and that's what we're seeing this week. Okay, but see what it does, it goes back into phase 2, and so I think the warmth backs off, and you get more zonal, and with that west-east flow, and that's what we're seeing here. When you get to the middle of the month, we see this fast zonal west-east flow. So this all makes sense now, okay? The Madden-Julian Oscillation is a measure of the convection along the international date line in relation to the equator. So we're saying the focus of that is going to be west of there, so that's going to allow for the higher heights to build in the east for a little while. We talked about the month of November here being above normal. Here's the breakdown of what we have in our outlook for as far as temperature departures. We do think generally 1 to 2, maybe 3 degrees above normal this month. Okay, it might not be quite this one, maybe just end up being for most of the area here, +1 to +2. That's still above normal for the month of November. But again, you got to remember temperatures are going down as you go farther in time. So that means excuse me, if it's the temperatures are going down, these averages above normal are also going down. So it's all relative to what is considered to be normal. I'm going to make this very simple for you here. As far as winter outlooks and all these long-range outlooks and things like that, I hear a lot of people talking about, well, this model says this. The CFS V2 says this. The European monthlies say this. The Japanese model says this. We don't look at models at all. We don't look at models when we're coming up with long-range forecasting. Okay? Models are very volatile. All it is a computer program and a simulation that says, we think it's going to do this. Models have a difficult time getting the weather right in the short range and medium range, let alone predicting seasonally. Okay, so we don't use models because they're very volatile. If you see a lot of forecasts out there, seasonal models that are used, or a lot of outlooks that people put out, these winter outlooks, and they say, oh, it's going to be this, and it was a complete opposite, or it didn't exactly happen the way they broke it down month to month, is because they're using climate models. You can't do that. You can't do that. So I'm getting questions on from different sources on Facebook, Twitter, things like that, saying, well, the CFS V2 says it's going to be warm this winter. Well, I really don't care what the CFS V2 says. I really don't. I don't care what any model says. What we do is we look at observations. This is I will tell you a very simple tool to use. Okay, when you're looking at seasonal forecasting, you look at sea surface temperatures. That's it. Sea surface temperatures, it's as simple as that. Sea surface temperatures drive the global climate. That's it. Sea surface temperatures, okay? So with that being said, we have to look at what the sea surface temperatures are doing, okay? And then, I mean, we look at all, not just here's the El Nino region right here, okay? Here's El Nino. Here's your positive PDO. This is a very warm PDO here, okay? This is a warm Northwest Atlantic, okay? Warm Caribbean, warm Indian Ocean. You're looking at not only here, but you're looking at it all across the globe and seeing what is going in the Northern Hemisphere to see what is going to influence our weather downstream. And this can all tell you about what's going on and give you clues about that, okay? So, with that being said, we're going to concentrate on El Nino here, all right? We now look at the El Nino here and what El Nino shows. This was last week, okay? This is the temperatures departures from normal, from what they are what's considered to be normal, what's considered to be dead even. This is above normal, okay? And the focus of that is now shifting to the west, which is right in this area here. You don't want it to be here if you want cold and snow. If you want it over, if it's over in the eastern regions right here, from the eastern part of Nino 3, if your best warming is right in here, then you're not going to get much snow in the winter. It's as simple as that. Okay, if you do have the best focus of this warming further west, out in this region here, this is centralized, or even out extending further than that in Nino 4, then you do have the chance of a good winter, and we'll show you why in a second. This was last week, and this is this week. Not much change, except it cooled a little bit more in Nino 1 and 2. This is good. You want the best warming, again, to be right in this region here. This is all centralized. Now it's starting to make its way this way, so it's becoming more centralized. So now we can look at some analogs in the past years and say, okay, what years look like this? This is our current sea surface temperatures globally. What can we match up here to past analogs to say where the sea surface temperatures look very similar to this? Well, we have two. Actually, we have three, but we're going to narrow it down to just two for argument's sake here. Okay? We have 1957. This has been a long-standing analog that we've been using for, I don't know, since the beginning of actually summer. Back in summer, we were saying of 1957, 1958 matched up pretty well. It still does. Okay, you have a warm PDO, centralized El Nino right here. Okay, the only difference is I got a couple differences here. One, this area here out in the Indian Ocean is showing is cold for 1957. It is not cold right now. Also, it's a little warmer up here in this area this year than it was in 1957. Okay, now what does that have to do with anything? Well, we'll see. Okay, this area north of Hawaii is sitting right about here. Okay, so the area, Hawaii is sitting right here. You have the cold pool north of Hawaii that is more pronounced in 2002 versus 2000, as opposed to 1957. So here's 2002. Okay, this matches up to the current year very well in 2002. All right, centralized El Nino. Okay, warm PDO. You get this little cold pool of air, of water north of Hawaii, right around Hawaii, right here. This is a cold pool. All right, this is what's going on right now. All this warm water along the East Coast. The cooler water up here in just south of Greenland. That's there. The warmer temperatures out here in the Indian Ocean. That's there. Okay, so I just circled all those areas. Now watch this. Here's current. Warmer out here in the Indian Ocean. Okay, here's Hawaii. Here's the cold pool. Let me draw these here. Warmer out here. Cold pool north of Hawaii right here. Warm PDO. Centralized El Nino. Warm along the eastern coast. Cold and trophy up here in Greenland. Okay, almost identical. Almost identical. So if I'm looking at this and saying, well, what matches the best, we're going to steer away. We're actually going to say that 1957 is number 2 now. Number 1 is going to be 2002. Well, guess what happened in 2002? Okay, we had a very busy winter. All right, now this doesn't just change overnight. So when you have sea surface temperatures that are showing this, it's not like a week from now they're going to be completely different. It doesn't work that way. The cold and warm waters don't just disappear or increase that rapidly. It just doesn't happen that way. It doesn't work that way. So we could take those 2 years and a third, which is not pictured here, which is November 1987. 1987 is very close too. All right, I didn't show that. It's probably our third analog in a series. So number 1 is going to be 2002. Number 2 is going to be 1957. And number 3 is going to be 1987. Okay, if you average those 3 years together, this is what December did for those 3 years. Slightly above normal temperatures, but also above normal precipitation. Okay, now that doesn't mean you're going to get snow all month and get crushed with snow or get all rain or anything like that. This is just averaged out over the entire month. This is slightly above normal temperatures and above normal precipitation for those 3 years. So what does that do? That gives you the opportunity for some snowfalls if it's timed right with a cold, and we have that. Here is, if you look at our 3 years we outlined here, 1987, this is just Philadelphia. 1987 didn't get much, okay? With above normal temperatures, they had 1.5 inches of snow that year. That's below normal. They get 3.4 normally in a year. But you look at the other two, you got 7.8 here in 1957, 8.4 inches of snow in 2002, okay? So if this is your number 1 analog right here. This is 1, this is number 2, this is number 3. That all suggests you're going to see snow in those because of those favored analog years. You're going to see snow timed. Good chance you see snow timed in December. And this is just Philadelphia. Further northwest of Philadelphia, obviously you have the opportunity to get more snow because you get colder temperatures than away from the city. This is in Philadelphia itself, Philadelphia International Airport. Okay, so if you're getting this in Philly, further northwest of there, you can get a lot more than that, just depending on the track of the system. And then we get into January. Go from this, above normal temperatures, above normal precipitation in those 3 years. Go to January. Look what it did. Below normal temperatures, near normal precipitation. Okay? So you can have a near normal snowfall here for, well, this is going to be mostly snow here because of these temperatures here. So you're getting a lot colder here in January. This is a change from prior. We were looking at these analogs before. Just going with our number 1, 2, and 3 analogs, this is now showing temperatures being colder than normal in January, which was a change. Okay, we always said February is going to be brutal and a big snow month, and those 3 years don't disagree. Very cold across the east here, above normal precipitation, and you just get socked with snow. Okay, so one of the other things you're looking at here when we're doing these outlooks here is how much. There's a lot more potential for blocking this year. Okay, this is not shown on here, but that's going to be in large part to the sea surface. Let me get this image back here. Going back to these sea surface temperatures here, you have all this warm air up here. This is promoting blocking. You also have a trough over Greenland, which is going to force the ridge further west. If the ridge is further west in Canada, like this, that means, let me get rid of some of these so it's easier to see. If you have the ridge over Greenland like that, or the ridge over the western Canada like that, means your warm air is out here. This is going to be your warmer air. Warmer compared to average. Not warm up there. They're going to get plenty of snow, believe me. Okay? But your colder than average is going to be southeast of that line. So we can get a pretty active winter here with blocking and get some big storms here, especially when we get into the second half of winter. I think when you get into February and even March, you're going to get pretty wild around here with some potential for some big storms. Last thing we look at is snow cover. Okay? We already talked about record snows in Siberia. They're at record levels here. This is what we're looking at right now as far as snow cover in as we start early November here in Canada. What you want to see that is get deeper and propagate southeastward. Here's the projection in 10 days from the same model. See that? Increases. That's all you need to see. You need to see an increase in snow cover, and if you do that, it just increases your chance for a negative Arctic oscillation as we head into the month of November. You need to see this progressing every week, and it's projected to progress over the next 10 days. That's all you need to see. Because by the time you get to winter, this is going to promote a cross-polar flow. It's going to keep the cold locked into the east and give you shots at these cold air coming down from Canada and not just staying locked up to the north. All right. Combine that with blocking later in the season, you can get some pretty big snowstorms. So you can see, kind of like if you're watching this video, you're going to kind of getting a preview of what we're going with our outlook here. We're not going with a mild and snowless winter. All right, it doesn't make sense, and exactly the reason why we went with this. While we don't use climate models that are going to lead you astray. If you look at the sea surface temperatures, it tells you everything. Sea surface, you can say, oh, well, the Arctic oscillation plays a part. You have all these other factors. It's not as simple as the sea surface temperatures. Well, guess what? Those other teleconnections, Arctic oscillation, North Atlantic oscillation, the NAO, all these different factors that people use in the forecasting, which we're going to use too on a short-range basis, are driven by these sea surface temperatures. This is the number one thing. Okay, if you get this nailed down, everything else falls into place. Okay, we're going to examine this more in the forum. Of course, we're going to go, we do this every single day in the forum here with the long range and the updates Monday through Friday. So don't miss out on that. Please sign up for a forum. We're going to get in active winter discussions now. We've already started that, but we're going to get into much more detail. I have to publicly get less detailed as we go a little bit forward, but I just want to give you an idea of the things we're going to be discussing and things we're going to be looking at prior to our winter outlook release on the 13th. Of course, forum members are going to get that on the 9th, which is that Monday prior. They're going to have the winter outlook released to them first. So if you do want to see that first, 5 days earlier than the general public, please join the EPAWA forum, and we will have that released for you on Monday, November 9th. I'm Eastern PA Weather Authority meteorologist Bobby Martrich, and that is this edition of Weather Weeklies for November 1st, 2015. See you next Sunday.